Hello, guys. This week we are going to cover multiplying radicals. So I will tell you that multiplying radicals is very similar to what we did last week. So if you need to go back and rewatch how to simplify radicals, you might need to do that because this is basically the exact same thing. So now, instead of just starting with one radical to simplify, we're going to have radicals that we have to multiply together and then simplify them down. So that's why I said it's basically like last week's lesson. So if we start with this first one, so it'll look like radical 3 times radical 15, okay? So you have radical 3 times radical 15. So do you see how these are both underneath the radicals? So you would just simply multiply them together. So this is radical 45. Now that we have square root 45, it looks exactly like it did last week, and we just go ahead and break it down, look for the prime factorization, and then look for our pairs. So this would be 3 and 15. This would be 3 and 5. Okay, so that's as far down as it can go. So now you're looking at 3 times 5. And then it goes back to what we did last week. So we look for a pair. So I see a pair of 3s. So that's going to go out front. And there's no match for that. There's no other 5 to go with it. So the 5 is stuck under the radical. So radical 3 times radical 15 is 3 radical 5. Okay? So what we did is we just multiplied it together. We broke it down, found our pairs, pulled our pair out front as 1, and then what was stuck we left underneath. Okay, so now let's try another one and let's throw in some variables. Okay, these are all going to be kind of mixed together this week, but the good thing is this week is that rather than learning 2 different targets, we're just going to stick with the one target of multiplying radicals, and you're just going to have 2 required assignments on those. Okay, so let's try this one. Radical 2x times radical 30x squared. Okay, so the first thing to do is just simply multiply them together. So first you have 2 times 30, which is 60, and then you have x times x squared. So remember, when you're multiplying like bases, you add the exponents, so 1 and 2, so that's x to the third. Now I have everything under one nice neat radical, so now I just break it down. So I have 6 and 10, I have 2 and 3, I have 2 and 5, so then I have 2 times 3 times 2 times 5. It might be beneficial if you list these in order from least to greatest, but honestly, it's not the end of the world. And then I have x to the third. Well, that's x, 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 all under the radical. So now go back and look for your pairs. So I have a pair of 2s. So that's going to go out front. I have a pair of x's. So an x is going to come out front. And then I have a 3 with no match, a 5 with no match, and an x with no match. So that's what's stuck underneath the radical. And then just like last week, you multiply it all together. So 3 times 5 times x is 15x. Okay? So radical 2x times radical 30x squared is 2x radical 15x. So I have one more planned, and now we're going to throw those coefficients out front. Okay, it is just like we did last week. We kind of stepped up. We did just numbers, and then we threw in the variables, and then we threw in those coefficients. So it's kind of the same thing here. Okay, so let's try one more. Let's do 2 radical 10 times 3 radical 12x. Okay, so multiply together. So the numbers on the outside multiplied together and the numbers on the inside multiplied together, and they stay separate. So 2 times 3 is 6. 10 times 12 is 120. And I still have the x underneath. Okay, so then now we break it. So kind of like last week, okay, break down the 120. So you're looking at, let's see, 10 and 12, 2 and 5, 2 and 6, 2 and 3. Okay? So then I have a 2, I have another 2, I have another 2, I have a 3, and I have a 5, and then I still have my x. So now go through and look for your pairs. So I have a pair of 2s, which I'm going to carry it over here. So I have a pair of 2s, and then I have 1, 2, 1, 3, and 1, 5 left. So none of those go together, so you're just going to multiply those through. So I'm going to do the 2 and the 5 first. So 2 times 5 is 10, and then times 3 is 30. So you have radical 30. My x, again, does not have a match, so that's underneath. And then I am not done. I still have to multiply by that 6. So 6 times 2 is 12, and then I have radical 30x. Okay, so hopefully I have covered everything, which I'm pretty sure I know that I have. I've covered everything that you need to be successful for these 2 required assignments this week. And if for some reason, guys, you're struggling whatsoever, please, please, please reach out to me. Okay, shoot me an email, send me a text if you already have my number. Do whatever you have to do to make this easy for yourselves. Okay, have a good week.